Okay, Dottie, I think we are filming.
Great. Welcome to the March 16th Select Board meeting of the Easton Select Board. Please note that in accordance with the emergency orders announced by Governor Charlie Baker to protect public health during the COVID-19 outbreak, the March 16th Select Board meeting will not be open to the public for physical attendance, and the Select Board members are calling in by telephone. This meeting is being live streamed and cable broadcast by the Easton Community Access Television, which is Comcast 98 and Verizon 23, and on ECAST's website, www.eastoncat.org. Connor will speak more about the details after I ask each Select Board member to state their name to ensure that we have a quorum. And if we could start with Craig.
Craig Barger.
Tom?
Tom Broussard.
Chuck?
Chuck King.
And Mark.
Mark Lamb.
Great, thank you. Connor?
Sure, thank you, Dottie. And thank you to each member of the board for leading by example and modeling the social distancing that we all need to be practicing as a community, as an organization, and as a country as we deal with the COVID-19 crisis. So thank you all for calling in. I know we all want to be visible during challenging times, and I appreciate that you're choosing to model that important behavior, and I hope the community follows suit. So I'm going to give a brief to the board and the public about the COVID-19 situation from an Easton specific lens. I'll cover a couple of broader based things, including what's going on in the state. So tonight I'm going to walk through some brief points about COVID-19 and the important steps that we all need to be taking right now to mitigate its spread. I'm going to give a summary of key statewide actions that have been taken to date by the Commonwealth to combat COVID-19, a summary of the town of Easton's ongoing response to COVID-19, as well as some additional informational resources for folks who are looking to learn more. Before I go any further, I do want to take a moment to thank a lot of people who have been working literally around the clock through the weekend since the governor's declaration last week. Specifically, I'd like to thank the Easton Emergency Management Team, all of Easton's first responders, our public health professionals, and all of our employees and our labor leaders who continue to work, whether remotely or in person, to provide critical services to the community. I specifically want to thank the Director of Health and Community Services, Kristen Kennedy, for her tireless efforts and critical role in managing this challenge. I'd also like to thank and recognize the town's Emergency Management Director, Chief Kevin Partridge. The town established a offshoot of our emergency management team to specifically focus on COVID-19, and I'd like to thank everyone on that team. That includes the police chief, Sullivan, the deputy chief, Boone, DPW Director Field, Superintendent Dr. Cabral, Assistant Town Administrator Blanchard, and our public health nurse, Christina Flanagan. We've had leaders step up from all departments and from all ranks, including firefighter Tim Vamosi, the town's infectious control officer, and outreach coordinator Kathleen Govea, amongst so many others that I can't actually get through naming all of them because we'll be here all night long. I can't stress enough how proud I am of all the employees across the board and in all of our departments in Easton, and how thankful I am for their continued dedication and devotion to their public service during what is unquestionably an incredibly challenging and unprecedented time. And I'd like to thank the Select Board again for modeling the necessary behavior that we all need to take of participating in things remotely when we can and avoiding gatherings, as well as your support of me and the entire emergency management response. I'd like to thank the Board of Health for their support of Director Kennedy, and all of our boards who have been supportive of the town's shared response and in their encouragement of social distancing and other critical health measures. Finally, I'd like to thank Governor Charlie Baker and the legislature who, as we speak, are working on emergency municipal legislation to address particularly unique challenges that this crisis poses to municipal governance and to help us adapt and respond to this situation. So a summary of COVID-19, why it matters, and specifically what is social distancing. The screen in here is turned off, so hopefully the picture-in-picture I wanted to have up is showing right now on the live stream. It ties into a Department of Health and Community Services FAQ that we've published, which is available online right now. If you go to easton.ma.us, one of the key concepts in that FAQ is one that people surely who are following this and people who have been reading articles voraciously on this, as I'm sure many of us have been, is available online. You see this concept of flattening the curve. It's a pretty basic concept that it's important to take proactive and preventative measures now rather than wait for a situation to get more critical before you respond. And the key concept there is that our measures as a municipal government and a community, measures that the state of Massachusetts are taking, and decisions that we all make as individuals and families can all play a really, really important part in flattening the curve to help reduce the spread of COVID-19 and reduce the likelihood that our health system, first responder systems, and other critical systems for our day-to-day life are not overwhelmed. Because of that, it is critically important that we heed the warnings of public health professionals and take action now. A key point that I believe made its way into some press coverage after this weekend's announcement of the first presumptive positive case in Easton. If I could summarize what is probably 100 hours in the past week into one point for everyone, it is that whether there is a presumptive positive case under an isolation order on your street, or whether that case is just a number on a countywide database that feels distant and abstract, the actions that we all need to take right now are the same. We need to observe social distancing, avoid non-essential gatherings. We need to practice good hygiene with frequent hand washing. I know I've touched my hair probably twice. I need to do that less myself and avoid touching my face. And following all other guidance from public health officials. This is true regardless of the number of cases confirmed in a community or in a county as well. The time to take these proactive measures is now. So a summary for the board and the community of what the state has done so far. First and foremost, the best place to get information about that is at the state's dedicated COVID-19 website at mass.gov/COVID-19. A key summary in the past week, on March 10th, Governor Baker declared a state of emergency in Massachusetts in response to the COVID-19 situation, which has now been described as a pandemic by the World Health Organization. Since then, additional measures have been taken, including significantly modifying the requirements of open meeting law on March 12th, which leads to this situation that allows for telemeetings so folks can continue to conduct important business remotely and without unnecessarily increasing the risk of exposure. The Commonwealth has launched 211 specifically to provide general and helpful information to citizens in every city and town 24 hours a day in over 150 languages for anyone who has questions about COVID-19. Again, from any landline or cell phone, anyone who lives in Massachusetts can dial 211 any time of the day, and they will be connected with state specialists who can provide you with helpful information. The governor announced and dedicated a statewide COVID-19 response command center on Saturday, March 14th. Sunday, the 15th, last night, the administration announced a series of other emergency actions, including the closure of all elementary and secondary schools in Massachusetts until April 6th, a prohibition of gatherings of 25 people or more, the prohibition of on-premise consumption of food or drinks at bars and restaurants beginning tomorrow, March 17th, and effective until April 6th. The governor's orders yesterday also include a variety of Department of Public Health orders on important health insurance and health provider fronts, expanding telehealth options, insurer coverage for COVID-19 related treatment, and more. The governor's announcement last night included a variety of measures to increase the speed with which unemployment assistance claims will be processed by the state, as well as forthcoming legislation which will expand unemployment assistance eligibility to assist individuals who cannot work due to the impact of COVID-19, which unfortunately will be many, and our hearts go out to those folks who will be struggling. Finally, the governor today, I believe, filed the municipal government legislative package that was drafted in close coordination with the Massachusetts Municipal Association, and myself and many colleagues providing information to them for unique concerns for town meeting forms of government in particular, that would expand moderator powers to postpone town meetings if necessary, permit select boards to postpone town meetings if necessary, adoption of lower quorum rules, and a variety of other critical financial and continuity of governance matters for municipal government. Again, the best place to get the summary of information on what action the state is taking is directly from the state at mass.gov/COVID-19. Before getting into town-specific actions that have been taken, I just want to make a quick note about the Easton schools. Easton Public Schools proactively announced last week that they would be closing. The governor has now suspended elementary and secondary education in Massachusetts until April 6th. The superintendent, Dr. Cabral, has and will continue to provide important information via email directly to all parents with a newsletter that has crucial information related to school closures, food assistance, childcare, and extended learning opportunities for children from pre-K through grade 12. Dr. Cabral and her team have been incredible partners in this, and they've worked hand in hand with the Easton Emergency Management Team to respond to this ongoing challenge. Some folks may have seen a tweet floating around this weekend of Dr. Cabral's mail inbox, which had more than 3,000 emails, many coming in over the course of a few days about COVID-19 and the schools, with many of those emails focusing on questions that are covered in the materials that have been provided. We understand folks are concerned and are looking for information, and we certainly appreciate that. We do ask that folks take a minute, be patient with us, and read through materials that are being sent directly to them by the superintendent and materials that are being published by the town, and to review them thoroughly as they do answer many of the most frequent questions that we are seeing. Moving on to the town of Easton's response. Before a state of emergency was declared by the governor in Massachusetts, the town's emergency management director, Fire Chief Partridge, and Health and Community Services Director Kennedy, in coordination with my office, stood up an offshoot of our existing emergency management team focused specifically on the growing COVID-19 cases in the Commonwealth and in the country. This group included professionals from town departments, the Easton schools, and regional governmental and health provider partners. This group had been meeting for a couple of weeks before the declaration of emergency and has ramped up significantly since then. Since the governor's declaration, the Easton Emergency Management Association was activated. We called an all-hands meeting for March 11th with all departments and key partners, and we have established numerous interdisciplinary and interagency working teams to focus our operational efforts in key places. Our teams have been working around the clock 7 days a week since then to identify and begin to resolve the many challenges before us as a municipal organization and as a community. This includes critical short-term operational challenges posed to our essential departments that are unique to a municipal government, particularly 24-hour, 7-day-a-week departments like fire, EMS, and police, for whom teleworking is not possible. But it is also for our other essential personnel who must continue working through this crisis, such as DPW buildings and grounds crews who are continuing to work to disinfect and keep clean all of our operational buildings and equipment. Council on Aging and Veterans Services staff working to coordinate services either remotely or from closed buildings for vulnerable populations, and clerical employees who are helping to make sure that we are processing payroll and paying our bills. Just a note on standard operating procedures that is important, as there's coverage of this in the news more generally. We are working closely with the chiefs, the Department of Public Works, and Health to coordinate as much personal protective equipment supply through the fire department and secure the necessary PPE for our first responders as this situation unfolds. Police, fire, dispatch, and health have established protocols for quarantine, isolation, and possible COVID-19 calls to protect our first responders and our employees as much as is possible during an ongoing situation with a highly contagious disease. Our department heads are also working together to shift as much of our daily operations to telework and virtual services as is possible. Out of an abundance of caution and in recognition of the governor's orders on social distancing, the town offices were closed last week for the duration of this week. We will be reassessing that on an ongoing basis and making announcements that will be widely shared if that will be extended. During the course of this week, and again, employees and the community, we will be postponing all inspectional services at this time. We will continue to reassess this. It will be an ongoing and incremental effort, and we appreciate everyone's significant patience with us as we try to shift as much of our governance and daily operations to remote services as possible. In addition to working with cross-department teams to establish protocols and new ways of doing business for the local government, we are also working hand in hand with key community partners and civic groups, such as the Easton Food Pantry, who we were able to work with to see them roll out today a to-go model in the parking lot of Town Hall that allowed folks in need to receive staple foods without leaving their vehicle or entering the building, and to reduce personal contact and maintain social distance. I commend the food pantry for being able to stand that up quickly. Town leadership has also been working around the clock and in close coordination with the Massachusetts Municipal Association and our partners in the Commonwealth to identify unique municipal governance challenges, such as conversations about dealing with possible changes to election and town meeting dates, the suspension of certain bill payment and permit application deadlines and fees, and other critically important matters. Some of these were quickly recognized by the governor, who I appreciate took swift action last week to begin addressing, such as open meeting law concerns when we have buildings that are closed to the public. We will continue these longer-term efforts, and we'll keep the board and the entire Easton community up to date as we go along. Members of the Easton Emergency Management Team have also reached out to nursing homes, assisted living facilities, the Easton Housing Authority, faith-based groups, and Stonehill College to ensure that we're providing educational materials and guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Department of Public Health. A general note that I would again like to reiterate from what we have been sharing, I can certainly appreciate as a parent and as a municipal leader that so many people are yearning for direction, for information, and for certainty in what is an uncertain time. And I know I speak for everyone in the Town of Easton organization when I say that we appreciate their patience and support as we work through this together. we ask and encourage residents to be respectful of each other and of their personal privacy and decisions relative to precautions that they may or may not take in their own effort to manage their response and a response for their families to COVID-19. We are going to continue to work around the clock to support our first responders, our public health professionals, and all essential personnel while sharing important guidance and information with families in Easton to reinforce that we all have a very important role to play working together to flatten the curve and to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, not just in Easton, but in the Commonwealth and in the United States. So what happens next and how do people stay informed? The town is going to continue to push as much information out as possible on our website, which is easton.ma.us. We are also going to be continuously pushing information out on our social media platforms on a regular basis. We encourage people to visit the statewide COVID-19 website, as well as to visit the federal government Center for Disease Control COVID-19 website and the World Health Organization COVID-19 website for more information. The Commonwealth, again, has deployed 211 as a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week phone service in over 150 languages for all residents of Easton and the Commonwealth to call at any hour and seek general information about COVID-19. The town is currently working on standing up and launching a dedicated helpline for our own residents for service-related questions, and we will widely publicize that as soon as it is ready. The Easton Food Pantry can be reached at 508-230-0670 and is open Mondays from noon to 5. Non-perishable donations can be left in boxes in the foyer of 50 Oliver Street. Thank you, and this concludes my prepared brief. Dottie.
Thank you, Connor. So next up, we have two discussions and votes on two items. But before we get to that, I just want to mention, as everyone knows, we have not done a remote meeting before, and it poses some challenges. Our administrative assistant, Lisa Florio, is taking minutes remotely. And so to help her record this meeting properly, I'd like to ask that when you make a motion or you second a motion, please state your name. For instance, this is Dottie, I'd like to make a motion, or this is Dottie, I'd like to second the motion. I'd also like to ask that when we take the vote, we do a roll call vote so each of us can make our vote clear. That ensures that nobody has fallen off the call and that we do have a quorum still, and it will help with confirming that information into the record. So the first item that we have is a declaration by the Select Board and the Board of Health of a state of emergency in Easton. And I'm going to read the declaration. Whereas the worldwide outbreak of COVID-19, described as a pandemic by the World Health Organization, and the effects of its extreme risk of person-to-person transmission throughout the United States and the Commonwealth significantly affect the life and health of our people, as well as the economy, and is a disaster that impacts the health, security, and safety of the public. And whereas the Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has issued a declaration of emergency on March 10, 2020, and determined that the immediate public action is needed to prevent, minimize, or mitigate damage to the public health, safety, or general welfare of the people of the Commonwealth and or property which may otherwise result from the above described emergency. And whereas the people of the community of Easton depend upon guidance from their chief municipal officials, now therefore, we, the Select Board of the Town of Easton, Massachusetts, hereby declare that immediately and effective as of Monday, March 16, 2020, a state of emergency is declared to exist in Easton. It is further resolved that during the existence of this state of emergency, the Easton Emergency Management Agency, under the direction of the Easton Emergency Management Director/Fire Chief and the Town Administrator, take those actions necessary and in accordance with state law, the Town of Easton Home Rule Charter, local bylaws, regulations, and resolutions of the Select Board to respond to this state of emergency. This declaration of emergency shall remain in effect until notice is given pursuant to our judgment that the state of emergency no longer exists, declared this 16th day of March 2020 by the Easton Select Board. And I'd like to have a motion to accept this declaration of emergency.
This is Craig. I move to accept the declaration of emergency.
This is Chuck, and I would like to second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor, starting with Craig, if you could please say your name and your vote.
Craig Barger, yes.
Chuck
Tom
King, yes.
Richard, yes. Chuck, go
So
ahead.
that was, Tom said yes, and Chuck said yes,
Mark Lamb, yes.
and Dottie Fultonetti, yes. Thank you very much. The next item for discussion and vote is the resolution to authorizing and directing the town administrator to execute certain essential functions on behalf of the Select Board during the state of emergency March 16, 2020. Whereas the Select Board of the Town of Easton, Massachusetts, on March 16, 2020, declared a state of emergency to exist in Easton related to the ongoing threat posed by COVID-19, described as a pandemic by the World Health Organization. Whereas the Select Board of Easton is prescribed certain functions under Massachusetts general laws, the Home Rule Charter of the Town of Easton, and other local regulations and policies. Whereas the Home Rule Charter of the Town of Easton designates the town administrator the chief administrative officer responsible for the supervision and direction of all departments, agencies, and offices for whose function he is responsible as may be consistent with law. Whereas certain executive functions of the Select Board of Easton are essential and time-sensitive for daily operations, particularly emergency operations, including but not limited to the execution of certain contracts for the procurement of goods, supplies, and services hindered by the limitations posed by the COVID-19. Whereas the Home Rule Charter of the Town of Easton explicitly states that the town administrator shall perform all affairs placed in his charge, including any duties required by the votes of the Select Board. Now therefore, we, the Select Board of Easton, determine that the rapidly evolving circumstances related to the COVID-19 necessitate and demand timely and responsive actions by the Town of Easton and the Easton Emergency Management Agency to respond to the state of emergency in the Commonwealth and the Town of Easton, including but not limited to the execution of certain contracts for the procurement of goods, supplies, and services in such a manner and time frame that warrants delegation of such functions insofar as they are pertinent to the ongoing COVID-19 state of emergency by the Select Board to the Chief Administrative Officer for his independent and rapid execution. Be it further resolved that the Town Administrator, to the extent possible, execute these delegated functions on behalf of the Select Board in close coordination with the Chair of the Select Board. The Town Administrator shall produce and keep a record of any action taken and provide a copy of such record to the full Select Board within 24 hours or as soon as is otherwise possible. Said record is to be read by the Town Administrator or the Chair of the Select Board into the public record at the next available meeting of the Select Board. Be it further resolved that such delegation of authority is designed to ensure that the Easton Town government continues in a manner to ensure that public health, safety, and welfare of the public, and is not intended to delegate significant policy-making discretion vested by the Select Board. This resolution shall remain in effect until notice is given pursuant to our judgment or upon the expiration of the Select Board's March 16, 2020 declaration of a state of emergency, whichever occurs first. Resolved this 16th day of March 2020 by the Select Board of Easton. And I just want to see if anyone has any questions or comments on that. And to summarize, there are going to be certain times where certain purchasing decisions may come up very quickly that have to be acted on right away. And similarly to how we've authorized the town administrator to make other purchasing decisions for contracts that are time sensitive, we want to make sure that we have that he has the ability to act on these things as needed. So does anybody have any questions about this?
No, not at this time. It's Craig. I do not. This is Tom.
This is Chuck. No, not now.
I do not have any questions on this at this moment. I do only have one comment, though. I am in support of this, and one of the thoughts that I had in regards to this is we need 48 hours to assemble and get together and put together a vote. And sometimes in a case like this, I can see it that there's not time for 48 hours for a decision to be made to buy a potential supply, whereas another town may have taken it or then had the ability to purchase it inside that 48-hour period. So for that, that's one of the main reasons why I am in support of this, and I just wanted that to be on record.
Great. Thank you very much. So with that, I will take a motion to accept the declaration of emergency.
This is Craig. I move to accept the motion as written. And this is Tom.
Okay,
I second that.
Chuck? I'm
Yes.
sorry. Well, it's Craig and Tom. I lost track over here. And so if we would do a roll call vote on accepting the authorization.
Craig Barger, yes. Tom Broussard, yes.
Chuck King, yes.
Mark Lamb, yes.
And Dottie Pulcinetti, yes. So I would like to invite each board member to make a comment, starting with Craig.
Thank you, Dottie. Not being in the room with Connor to show my support for the work that he and our town employees have been doing over the last 2 weeks was a very, very difficult one for me. Given that I spent 40 years in human services, and that's the first thing you do is run to the problem, not away from it. But I also need to model healthy behavior, as was stated by Connor and Dottie at the beginning. The COVID-19 is a real threat to the health and safety of our residents, and I urge people to take this very seriously and to follow the advice of the CDC and the public health officials and the information that Connor has indicated will be on our website. Please reach out to us if you know of vulnerable people in town who are in need of food or daycare or just a kind voice. We will get through this crisis, but it will take all of us working together, and I look forward to the opportunity to continue to serve. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Tom?
Thank you, Dottie, and I echo much of Craig's sentiment. I think we as a community find ourselves in unprecedented times, and that we are just beginning to understand the full magnitude of how it will impact our daily lives. I'm incredibly appreciative of all the efforts of those in our community who are continuing to serve in the capacities that they have to for the betterment of our residents. Much like Craig, sometimes I feel, and we all feel, that there was more that we can do. But I think providing information, communication, and helping our community understand the ramifications that we face, and getting out of the way and letting the professionals in our town do their job in such an incredible way that they do, I'm appreciative. And that's really all I would have to add.
Thanks, Tom. Chuck?
Thank you. I appreciated all the people that Connor mentioned in his appreciation, and certainly not least is the tremendous work that Connor has input in for the benefit of the town. Thank you, Connor. There are interesting items that he also mentioned, such as teleworking is not for police, fire, EMS. They are out there all the time protecting us, and I'm so grateful for that. This is a trying time, And I can't think of anyone not greatly affected in our community or anywhere else in our country. Let's all try to keep in mind that it's a finite amount of time. We just don't know how long exactly, but I believe it will pass. Let's use that time as much as possible for the good. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. And Mark?
Hi, thank you, Dottie. Echo what everyone else said. Connor, thank you. You've stepped up once again. You're leading your department heads phenomenally. Every individual who's actually on the front line, the firemen, paramedics, police officers, they're actually out there. They don't get time off. I want to thank all of those people. As I sit here at home, Connor's in the room, and those guys are out in their cruisers and in their ambulances, and they're still doing their job. One thing I want to mention is, more than anything, I would love for all these precautions to be wrong. And I will gladly, I think you all will gladly accept criticism after the fact if they are, but I do not think it's worth the risk at all. So please heed all of these precautions. Please take everything into consideration. Social distancing, working from home, it is very serious. And yeah, I'm in support of the town's operations, the department heads, and yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Mark. So my comments would be, this is a scary and confusing time for our community as we brace ourselves for the unknown. I'm worried about my family. I'm disappointed that my daughter isn't able to go back to college right now, and I'm worried about my son that serves in the Navy. And, I know that you're worried about your families and your parents and people that are vulnerable in your lives. And I know that we're worried about our jobs and what this is doing to the economy. So we're all in the same boat where that's concerned. The town of Easton is working diligently to stay informed, and we're making decisions that will protect our residents and our staff, but we're doing it using the most up-to-date data and the advice of professionals. As information changes, we need to be flexible and open-minded to a new normal. During these times of stress, we need to remember that this is really temporary, and I'm just asking people to think and have patience with yourself, especially with your kids, your family, and with each other. This will be a time when the community can and will come together to support each other. Like Connor said, I want to thank Connor and his team. I want to thank our public safety workers, our healthcare workers, caregivers, service workers, food service workers, and I want to thank Easton Cable Access Television and Donna Whitehead of the Easton Journal and all those that are working to minimize disruption in our daily lives and help us provide information and transparency to the community. Like Connor said, I really want to thank the dedicated volunteers at the Easton Food Pantry and the businesses and community members that graciously donate. And I especially want to thank my fellow board members for their leadership during this unprecedented time. We're very concerned that we're making the right decisions as we move forward. It's a really big responsibility that we have, and none of us take that lightly. And working together to have a great outcome, I feel very proud to be a part of this team. I also want to add one other thing, is that people who are hopefully watching this meeting or listening to it, if you have questions or comments about this meeting, please send your email to mblanchard@easton.ma.us. That's Michael Blanchard. Include your name and address and the question, and a response will be incorporated into the meeting minutes as part of the public record. So at this time, I'd like to take a motion to adjourn.
This is Craig. I move to adjourn. This is Tom Broussard. I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Tom Broussard.
And aye, Dottie. Thank you very much. I think this went very successfully for our first audio meeting, and I appreciate it. Everyone, please stay safe. Thank you.